Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Gonna be back. So, want to go ahead and do a little bit of a follow-up from Friday's Aaron Torres pod. And if you listen to that episode, we talked about a little bit of an interesting topic from the world of college football, and that is the recruiting that is going on right now at the University of Alabama. Now, look, we know that Alabama has had great recruiting classes basically since Nick Saban took over. The history of the online recruiting era is littered with number one, number two ranked classes, mostly number one ranked classes at Alabama. But why it has become interesting is because when Kalen Deboer took over this program in January, there were a lot of people, for the record, not me, that said, well, Kalen Deboer, sure, he won a lot of games at Washington, but will he really be able to recruit in the SEC? Well, I bring it up because on Friday's show, we discussed the fact that our buddy Kalen Deboer is doing just fine, okay? So Kalen Deboer, this was last week, had Alabama at the number 3 recruiting class in the country behind only Ohio State and Notre Dame, which means they were also number 1 in the SEC. Well, I bring it up because that's ancient history, because just since Friday's show, Alabama has picked up 2 marquee commitments. They've moved up in the recruiting rankings, and they have been crystal balled for so many guys, it's almost impossible to keep up with. And so with it, I'm just about to ask a very simple question. Are Kalen Deboer and the Alabama football team, Alabama football program, about to go on a historic recruiting run? Because if you believe the experts and if you believe the insiders, the answer is, yeah, it's probably going to happen. By the way, make sure you're following our Torres on Bama Twitter account for all of the late breaking news. If you're on Twitter, Torres on Bama. By the way, we do have our Don't Doubt Deboer shirts available at AaronTorresOnline.com as well. But anyway, enough about not doubting Kalen Deboer because I never have. But let's get into some of the stuff that has happened over the last couple of days. Because first of all, as I said, Friday, number 3 class in the country. But it was a big recruiting weekend at Alabama this weekend, like it was everywhere else in college football. And it started off with a bang on Saturday night. Micah DeBose, the number 1 rated offensive lineman in the state of Alabama, at one point was committed to the University of Georgia, decommitted. Well, Micah DeBose Saturday night became the latest Alabama player to commit to this team. And so we talk about it all the time. I'm not going to talk about every individual player, and this is their strengths, and this is their weaknesses, and this is what they do, and da-da-da-da, this and that. But it's important because it's an in-state kid. Obviously, line play is crucial in the SEC. I also think his particular commitment is worth noting for a different reason. It's because with his commitment, Alabama officially moved up to number 2 in the recruiting rankings beyond and surpassing Notre Dame. By the way, love Notre Dame. I think, Marcus Freeman's doing about as good a job as he can. Alabama's going to finish ahead of Notre Dame for sure. So they're at number 2 right now. But the big question is, can they get to number 1? We'll get to that in a minute, because even after the Micah DeBose commitment, there is so much more news to get into. First of all, how about this? Wednesday afternoon, there's a bunch of players we're going to talk about momentarily who are projected, who are crystal balled to eventually commit to Alabama. Here's the crazy part, though. One guy that maybe I missed it, and if I missed it, Bama fans, you can get in the comment section and yell and scream at me. But I did not see that Dawson Merritt, 4-star linebacker, top 100 prospect from the state of Kansas, I did not see that Alabama was the favorite, or he was leaning there, or he was about to commit. He's actually coming off of a visit to Oklahoma, took a visit to Missouri the week before, took a visit to Alabama the week before that, the first full weekend of June. Bring it up because after 2 visits to 2 other campuses, he decides on Wednesday, you know what? I'm ready to be a member of the Crimson Tide. So just like that, just since last Friday, we have 2 top elite blue chip prospects, the number 1 offensive tackle in the state of Alabama. And oh, by the way, an elite linebacker who had offers from Oklahoma, Missouri, whatever. They both committed to Bama. Here's where it gets interesting, though. If you follow recruiting, and one thing, whether you're new to this show, whether you've heard me before, I don't claim to be a recruiting expert. I trust the evaluation of all the guys and girls that are on the road 365 days a year doing it. But what I will say, I do like to watch trends. I do like to talk about trends. And we got ourselves a spicy meatball of a trend that started happening late last week. Because as I said, this past weekend was a major recruiting weekend in college football. And if you were on a computer on Sunday or on your phone or on social media or whatever, the crystal balls just started rolling in for Alabama. First off, these are crystal balls. In other words, these are recruiting experts, not me, not you, not the guy who knows the mailman who knows the four-star recruit's mom from high school. We're talking about respected writers in the world of recruiting and the recruiting space. We got 4 crystal balls over the course of Sunday into Monday. The first one, Dijon Lee, a 5-star cornerback from the state of California where I live, has offers from pretty much everybody. Visited Alabama, 6'3", monster of a kid. You know, for a cornerback, 6'3", are you kidding me? Only, guess what? Over the course of the last couple days, a funny thing started happening. Has offers from Texas, has offers from Georgia, has offers from A&M. Well, guess what ended up happening? Gets crystal balled by a bunch of people to commit to Alabama. If that alone was what happened on Sunday and a Monday, that's a heck of a weekend, but it keeps going. Ty Haywood, a offensive tackle from the state of Texas, the number two ranked offensive tackle, depending on what recruiting service you're looking at, top 20 prospect according to 24/7 Sports, has offers from Florida State, has offers from Oklahoma. Well, guess what? He got crystal balled over the weekend to Alabama as well. Not bad. 5-star corner, 5-star offensive tackle. Now, he has since taken other visits, or he plans to take a visit to Florida State. And like all these kids, it's always worth mentioning that there's a long time between now and National Signing Day. We're not getting the August signing period that some discussed. And so I just bring it up because a lot of stuff's going to change. And I'm not saying that all these kids are going to commit and all these kids are going to stay. But again, we follow trends, and this is a big one. And by the way, I am far from finished. That's because late Sunday, Caleb Cunningham, 5-star wide receiver. Noticing a trend? There's a lot of 5-star kids that seem to like Alabama. Not bad considering Nick Saban's retired and I was told the new staff couldn't recruit. Bring it up. Caleb Cunningham, 5-star wide receiver from the state of Mississippi. Crystal balled on Sunday to go to Alabama. And here's the interesting part. My buddy Ryan Fowler, Tide 100.9, hosts 2 to 6 Central Time, covers Alabama 365 days a year, had Caleb Cunningham on his show on Tuesday. And Caleb Cunningham basically admitted, I don't want to put words in his mouth. He's 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid. But essentially, to paraphrase, he said, I could have envisioned myself committing on the spot, but I promised myself that I would go through the full process, take all my visits. So you know that he likes Alabama. And then, oh, by the way, Monday morning, we find out the number one running back in America, Kalen Deboer from the state of Mississippi, committed to Ole Miss. Steve Wiltfong, the best in the business, puts in a report or a crystal ball that he is going to flip from Ole Miss to Alabama. And so at this point, I don't know what else I can say other than that Alabama has the number 2 ranked recruiting class right now. And that as I record this second, by the way, they have the number 2 ranked class. Just in the last couple of days, they've added the best offensive lineman in the state of Alabama and a 4-star linebacker, top 50 prospect in America. But the crazy part is, right now, with the number 2 class already on paper in place, they are projected to get 3 5-stars according to 24/7 Sports and 4 of the top 50 players. And here's the crazy part. Those are only the guys that we know about right now. So again, Dawson Merritt, we weren't even aware that he was this close to committing. And so I just bring it up because I think we're about to see a pseudo-historic run from Alabama in recruiting. And again, we know stuff changes. Other schools are going to make their moves. Georgia's going to make their move. Texas is going to make his move, whatever. But this speaks to, like, this Kalen Deboer dude knows what he's doing. And oh, by the way, anybody who said this dude couldn't recruit in the SEC, go ahead. Go get on the computer, delete those tweets, man, because you're going to look silly. And the bottom line is, and this goes to some of the stuff that we've talked about since Kalen Deboer took the job in January. Bottom line, for my opinion, is this. My belief is that smart people that have success at multiple stops, they're going to figure it out even at the highest level if they know what they're doing, okay? And I'll give you a quick example. For people who are new to this show, I went to the University of Connecticut. UConn won back-to-back national championships. Dan Hurley's the head coach. Was talking to the AD after the game on the court. I said, what did you see in Dan Hurley? He goes, the guy won everywhere. The guy won at high school. The guy won at the super low major level. The guy won at the mid-major level. We thought he would come here and do the same thing. Maybe not back-to-back national championships, but we thought he could win. By the way, how about, you want a great example? How about the Alabama basketball coach? If you're Nate Oates, you don't go from Romulus High School in Michigan to the SEC in 10, 12 years, whatever it was, if you don't know what you're doing. And it's the same with Kalen Deboer. And I'm not saying Kalen Deboer is a recruiting, savant or whatever. But the thing about Kalen Deboer, smart people, you know what they do? They know their strengths and weaknesses, and they hire smart people to kind of fill the holes in places they might not be great. So if Kalen Deboer knows I'm not the most elite recruiter, you know what he's going to do? Put together the best recruiting staff in the country, which is exactly what he did this offseason. We talked about it on Friday's show. Remember, don't forget that the only person that came on the plane from Seattle to Washington with Kalen Deboer, with the exception, I believe, of his family, it was Courtney Morgan, his player personnel guy, his GM, who helped him build up Washington. By the way, Courtney Morgan was at Michigan before that and helped build Michigan's roster that won the national championship last year. And so the only guy that comes on the plane with you, not the offensive coordinator, not the defensive coordinator, not your special teams guru, not your strength and conditioning coach, it's your player personnel guy. And then from there, you add a bunch of other people that are really good at their jobs. We talked about it when it happened. The guy, Aaron Hodges, he was at Purdue. Or he was at TCU, excuse me. TCU was coming off their top-ranked recruiting class ever. Was at Purdue at a certain point. They had their number one ranked recruiting class ever when he was there. Was at Ohio State during the Urban Meyer run. Like, the guy knows what he's doing. And so this is the Kalen Deboer that I've been telling you about on this YouTube channel, on this podcast, pretty much since what? Since January? He's going to figure it out. He's going to bring in smart people. You're not going to get an opportunity like Alabama and go half speed. But you know what the crazy part is? And I mentioned this to my buddy Ryan Fowler on Wednesday when I joined his show. Here's the crazy part about it. Recruiting really probably isn't Kalen Deboer's strength, right? What is Kalen Deboer's strength? It's game day. It's game plans. It's X's and O's. And it's about being the smarter guy on the sidelines when you line up to compete on Saturdays. Remember, this is the guy, 3-0 all time against Dan Lanning. And I think if you went player for player on that roster, my guess is Dan Lanning's team was more talented every single time. By the way, 2-0 against Steve Sarkisian. Everybody, Sark, Texas is back. It's the new, and Texas is going to be really good. This isn't a knock on Sark, but Kalen Deboer's 2-0 against him. Texas, no doubt, had the better roster last year in the college football playoff, and Washington still came out on top. And so I'm so excited for this Kalen Deboer era. Listen, it's June. I'm not going to oversell anything. I'm not going to sit here and say that they land all these kids and they sign them, and I'm not going to make any promises for the season ahead. But if there is one thing that I would say, do I believe in my heart of hearts that Alabama did as good as they possibly could have done to replace Nick Saban? They did. And listen, I nobody's going to win 6 titles like Saban, not in this new era. But this guy is going to win. He's going to win big. And Alabama fans, you got yourself a good one. If you enjoyed this video, do me a quick favor. Make sure to subscribe here to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. Oh, by the way, do me one other quick favor as well. Follow Torres on Bama on Twitter. The Don't Doubt DeBoer shirts are now available at Aaron Torres online.